and for whatever reason, my webcam isn't working. This is OotiniCast, episode 274. We are closing in on 300. That'll be sometime early next year. Wouldn't it be cool if the 300th show actually fell on when we were all in Orlando? Somehow I don't think the fates will quite work out like that, but I'm sure we could screw it up somehow. Anyway, as I mentioned,
pulsating Jawa, by the way.
yes.
Especially in other regions.
If anyone out there has actually upgraded to the anniversary version of Windows 10 and their webcam wasn't fucked up, just let me know. Give me some hope. Otherwise, I'm going to have to buy myself a new webcam. I've got a fairly fancy Logitech 920 something HD, whatever. But yes, it completely screwed up as soon as the anniversary update was installed, and so did my other webcam. So.
Did you search for drivers for it? The mic or the webcam?
Can I use my patronizing voice, Kuze?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Did you try disconnecting your computer and turning it back on?
I tried all the obvious things, but yeah. Yeah, I did find some mentions of this, how Microsoft has actually changed the way they do webcams or something. Yeah, whatever.
They're improving it for your benefit.
Yeah. They always do. All right, I'm going to tweet that out now. Recording. Dekion says he upgraded on release day and didn't have any issues. However, it caused havoc at work. Yes. I wouldn't know about that because my employer, the behemoth of the military industrial complex, is still using Windows 7.
We're actually a guinea pig that we're going to be getting upgraded to Windows 10 soon.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. Actually, we're more likely to upgrade to Windows 10 in our deployed environment before Boeing, my employer actually moves itself.
I'm actually going next week.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Quarterly meeting.
I see. All right. It always feels weird to fly in those planes. I actually prefer them to the Airbus. Anyway, all that aside, so aside from the rambling, we're about to start the show. It's just going to be Kuze as our guest today.
Sorry, guys.
We do not have Booze, so this is Kuze with a K, not Booze with a B.
That's not quite true.
Oh. All right. Is there something in between?
It's in between. It's in between. You'll be all right, Tia.
I see.
I'm gonna do my best tonight.
Okay. All right. So, anything you want to quickly cover before we start? Did I forget anything? How'd that combo intro work for you last week, Chill?
It was fun.
All right.
Yeah. I would do it again. We've only done a couple like that. So.
That's true. Yeah, the one with Kimmy, for example.
Yes, that would be the other one.
Cool. All right, let's stop fucking around and get on with it.
Okay, going in 5. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast, the podcast that used to bullseye Womp Rats and its T16 back home. This is episode 274, being recorded on Thursday, August 18th, 2016. I'm your host, Chill, with our producer and co-host, Tio. Hi, Tio.
Hey, guys. I can't believe we haven't used that one.
I know. I've been kind of holding on to that one, so
okay.
I thought it was time to pull the trigger, so to speak.
Pun intended.
So Kuze, as our one guest this week. So what have you been up to the last couple of weeks?
I've actually been up to a lot, and so I've gotten some
Good.
downtime to. Tio's joking. Gotten to play. I went and did world bosses with the Utini Knights, with their lovely guild page. You can sign up and say, you're gonna be there, you're gonna be maybe or whatever else. So I decided to make this one to be a helping hand. And also just to kind of get back into the swing of things, of healing and everything else. And it was a nice turnout. I think at the max we had 20 people, maybe a little over, at one point in time where we were all in there killing world bosses. So that was pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
On the 27th, they have a PvP event planned. I think it's going to be guild faction versus the other side, so Utini Knights versus Utini Rage. And it happens to land on my birthday. So in my head, I'm thinking they really did it for me, but I know that's not the truth.
That will be fun.
And speaking of my birthday, that thanks to Snave, he sent me out a happy birthday based off of Skype, which is the 17th, because I never put my real birthday in any online application because,
Right.
you know, you got to keep those people on
Paranoia.
their toes.
I do the same thing, actually, believe it or not. Yep.
So thanks to Snave. Sorry it was early, but thanks for the wish anyways. Did the Eternal Championship finally. That was a really good time. It was better than I expected. It was a good way to get back into the game because I hadn't played in a while, so to try to learn the rotations and everything else. I did die a couple times, but once you get everything down, it's fairly easy. One thing I did miss was the original way we used to do interrupts. Interrupts used to be a lot quicker
Yep.
in the past, and it seemed more of a skill in the past that you had to use versus now it's just like, okay, I can use it now and I don't have to worry about it again. Before you like really had to pay attention and everything else, and if you paid attention, it paid off for you. Now it's like I could pay attention a little bit and then I can interrupt one or two things and then it's done. But I wish the Eternal Championship had a little bit more things to interrupt, actually using the interrupt spell or ability. There's a couple ones where you can actually do a movement impairing effect. Like on the walker, you can throw a freezing grenade and stop his cast, or knock him back and stop a cast. There's a couple things, but I think there's very few you can actually even use your actual interrupt ability on. So, but it was a good time. It was better than I thought it was. I finished my Star Fortresses. I had, I think, 2 planets left, Tatooine and Voss, that I had not done in heroic mode, and soloed those. The Star Fortresses are great. That's one of the best things I think that they've done. There's the map changes up every time you use it. The ability, well, I'm not going to say ability, but the solo mode and hard mode difficulties are tuned fairly well. The drops that you get in there for rewards, everything about it, I just enjoy the Star Fortresses.
Oh, good.
They're great.
They even have those funky things that you can click on and get.
Yeah,
well,
it seems like there's a lot of thought that went into it. So you can do it without doing that. You can get the buffs at the beginning. Then if you have your commanders up to a certain rating, you can go in there and get those abilities that you're talking about and use. And they come in handy, too, because especially on the boss and Voss, if you, as a healer, I can't put out enough DPS. And also back to the interrupt thing, he does a heal on himself. Well, you can interrupt one of the heals, and then it'll stop it, and then he's like, "Oh, well, that didn't go through. Let me do it again before your interrupt even comes up again." Yep. So that was a long process as a healer, man. So
did you get the achievement for doing it without the buffs?
Yes, I did that a long time ago before hiatus. So, anyways, the turret came in very, very handy for that, helping me get him past that, because I couldn't interrupt him enough. The GTN, this is the best thing since I've been gone. The GTN's been great. I actually sold that companion, the probe droid one, for $53 million, plus all the other stuff that I've made. So I'm up to $73 million now.
Nice.
Damn.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's the most I've ever had in SWTOR, and I kind of chalk it up to being a preferred subscriber because I can't access the money. I can only get to 350 credits.
You think you'd spend it otherwise? So
I can't spend it, so it's just collecting in there. Bought a bunch of armor, some more decos. When I did the guild events, I saw that Jihana, I asked who decorated the guild ship, and it was Jihana, so I've been kind of thinking about maybe going in there and throw my own flair on the guild ship. I know Chong done it in the past, and Bill. We're going to talk about the interview with Ben later on, so I have a few comments on that, but I'll wait for that. And the last thing has been working out with the kid, trying to get in shape. It's pretty rough, let's say. It's been years since I've actually ran. Yeah, it's been good. And that has been my week.
All right. Tio, how about your week?
Somehow I managed not to play again. You know, if I wasn't actually doing this show, I'd probably have more time to play, which is ironic in the extreme. But
it is.
Real life, etc. Yeah, anyway, it goes on. My work is extremely time-consuming at the moment, though it may be freeing up, and of course there's the additional study I'm doing. Blah, blah, blah. So, something I did want to follow up on was the question I asked Andrew last week about, as a guild leader, what happens if you did actually switch to preferred, as in you no longer become a subscriber, and you are the guild leader of the guild. And he was absolutely right in what he said, in that as soon as you drop to preferred, as long as there's at least one other guild leadership will immediately pass to another subscriber who is of the highest rank in the guild. And if there's multiple at that same rank, it'll just pick one randomly, or so it seems. So that's
Right.
how it works, and so that's what would have happened if I had let my subscription lapse. But I didn't, and I won't. So
Okay.
it's good to
Would
know.
Will it still like not be a problem if they do that thing where you're looking to just have your own guild by yourself, just for the perks and so on, and you just kick everyone else out, and you're the only one, and then you go preferred? I assume that you'll still be the leader. It won't prevent
Right.
that.
In that case, the guild becomes a free-to-play guild.
Okay.
Which has less options, like you can't change the rank names or add new ranks. There's just a few other little bits and pieces like
wow.
that. But if it's just you, and it's just a free-to-play guild, and that's fine. So yeah, no
Interesting.
problem with that at all.
But there still would be a guild bank, though, huh?
And you can only access it if you have that particular cartel market unlock to actually
Right.
get to the guild bank.
Okay.
If you're preferred, yeah. So
Cool.
anyway, Andrew was pretty much spot on though.
Speaking of unlocks with preferred, I didn't know that you had to unlock your companion customizations. Because I went and bought a couple customizations for my new
Sure.
droid, which, I forgot to mention, I got with one of the new Annihilation droids and got him up to 50, so it's my first companion up to 50. And I went
Nice.
to go get him a new customization, and I realized that I didn't have the
You had to have an
rights
unlock.
authorization. Hmm.
So how did you get your companion up to 50? Was it just gifts, vast numbers of gifts?
Yes, since it was one of the droids, one that comes in the cartel packs,
Yep.
that uses those maintenance gifts. So
Oh, good.
I had so many Jawa junk pieces left in my bank. I had
right.
like a 1,900 of the greens and 700 of the blues. So I mean, I think I spent it was 500 greens, like 300 or 400 blues, and a couple purples, and I was up to 50.
Nice.
And I did open up the very first, because the first tier where you can open up the speed boot or the 20% reduce cast speed, and then the next one, that one's 250,000 or somewhere in there, and
Yep.
then the next one's 400,000. Well, my credit cap's 350, so I couldn't get the 400,000.
Ah.
So
You could
I
have
just
paid
got the
cartel
first one, but
coins.
it does make a difference. Yeah, well, I didn't want to do that. But it does make a difference. It took off 6 seconds, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're sitting there clicking over and over, it does add up.
Right.
Sure does.
To
yeah.
give to the companion. Right.
Right.
All right. So in other news, yesterday I purchased my plane tickets to Orlando for Star Wars Celebration next year in 2017, April 2017. And now Ari tweeted about this. So the good news is the bad news is she won't be joining us. And the good news is that's because we're having another child, in fact,
Yay.
a son, and
Oh.
he'll be born early March. So, yeah.
So, awesome. One of each.
Indeed.
Very
So
sweet.
anyway,
Are you already thinking of Tolkienist names to give to him?
you wouldn't believe how much trouble we're having finding a name for the boy. So, so far, no, drawing. We've got a few ideas, but nothing solid.
I heard Kuze is a
Awesome.
good name.
Kuze. What about Kevin?
Yes, Kevin would be good.
Yeah. Hmm.
Which is another good name.
Indeed. All right. Anyway, that's my week. Over to you, Joe.
All right, we'll start off with a shout out to the chat room. And let's see, Blacklock Gaming is here. Darth Aro, Dekion, Dreadex, Farseer, Fizze, Gahana, G-Land, Gator Skull 1289, Get Vizzy, Jipeo, Nick Smith 4, R2D2 Arm, Rokuze is here, Siskaeka, Slayer Orange, Stavis, and the Corley. Is that everyone? I think that's everyone. Hang on a sec. Yes, that is everyone. Okay. And thank you for coming, everyone. All right. And I did get back into town, so I did get a chance to play for part of this week. And one of the first things I did was jump in and get Chapter 16 done, and that was great. Streamed that. And after having done it, I'm glad that I had waited, or was forced to wait, really, the extra week, because I kind of heard about how, yes, this is the last chapter, but it's not really wrapping everything up. It's really getting things set up for next season. That way I wouldn't, when I was playing it, I wasn't always thinking, oh, okay, how are they going to end this? What's the ending going to be like? How are they going to wrap this up? I could just sit back and enjoy the story that as it was.
Yeah, they didn't wrap it up.
Exactly. So, and because of that, I really enjoyed it, and
Right.
it was pretty awesome. If I'd been looking for like a really wrapped up in a bow ending, then that would have been a bummer. But as it was, it worked great, and it actually is pretty sweet and kind of surprising. A couple of real surprises there. I wasn't expecting Scorpio to do that thing that she does at the end, for instance.
I heard, don't droids do that in Japan?
Yeah, I won't get any more spoilery than that. But it was pretty sweet. And then I got back to Chill Satan, and Chill Satan is now partway through Voss. Still enjoying him as my dark side character. Once I get him to 50, then I just have to look at the various dark versus light side event things to see what I'm going to do next. And I'll just decide based on that. So far, I've enjoyed both the Santa and the Satan, so I'm not sure which one I will take to the next step. But it's kind of hard to say. They've both been a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to just continuing that for a while. And I've got weeks and weeks to go, so I'm not planning on hurrying through it since I'm not going to the last tier, just the second to the last tier. All right, and that will bring us to the tip of the week. And we've got 4 tips this week. I'll go ahead and start us off with one from Java Doggy, Starbucks of our own Utini Rage. And Java Doggy writes, if you use your Nico Okar token to open him early, it counts as an ally for the Building Alliances unlock. But if you go to Hilo V's and do the alert mission to make his drink, it will also count as earning an ally. So all you have to do is drop the coins to open up HK51, and you're done.
Nice and easy, yeah.
Yep.
All right, our second tip is from Indie Solo, and he says, so here is something I've been using for the DVL, Dark vs. Light event. I find myself leveling so quickly doing heroics and the PvP daily/weekly that I very quickly find myself not completing any more of my class story once I hit level 10 and make my way to the fleet. For the bounty event and the Rat Ghoul event, what I did to get around not having earned my ship yet, and without your ship you can't use your stronghold to exit onto places like Tatooine, was to save and use the heroic travel to get myself the planets I otherwise would have to rely on summons or joining someone else on their ship to get there. I've used the heroic travel to get myself to Corellia and Tatooine for the Rat Ghoul event, Ilum for the Gree, and also Tatooine at around level 41, when the Lawless Sands PvP mission appears to discover Outlaw's Den.
Nice.
So if you don't feel like doing Drummond Cast or Coruscant missions again, you can use this to get around. And by the way, love listening to the show. Thanks for keeping up with it for so long, especially when the burnout/frustration hits Tio. Oh, I wouldn't go that far, but anyway. But thank you.
All right. Third tip is from Benjamin. Benjamin writes, if you log out while the Field Legacy cargo hold is deployed, it will still usually be there when you log back in, and the respawn cooldown continues to count down while you're away. It's handy for crafting while questing on multiple tunes. Nice.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, that's better than the mail version, which is, the mail is almost never there when you relog in, but you have a debuff on you that if you forget to unclick it, it will mess you up.
Indeed.
Sometimes when you change instances, it'll switch over there with you, like the repair droid and stuff too. Just get stuck.
All right, our last tip is from Johnny, also known as Born to Eat Bacon. This is likely apparent to most, but be very, very careful when selling Grand Chance cubes on the GTN, because they stack now. Yes, I knew they stacked, but it didn't hit me at that level until I accidentally listed 3 for 350,000 credits combined. By the grace of fluke luck and good karma, I was able to cancel the listing before the vultures pounced. Vultures like Kuze, but wanted to drill into all who listen. Learn from my mistakes. Don't make my mistake. Be well, and may the force be forever in your favor.
Yeah, so with the GTN, it's always a good practice, especially if you're going to post something and you know that it's worth a lot of money. So you're going to do the search for it up front to see what the price is. Then you go to the window where you're going to sell it. You sell it, you put your price in. You know that you put the right price in, but sometimes it's good to go back to the screen, hit search again, just to see where your auction lies and to see if it's the right price and the right location. If not, you can hurry up and just go back over and cancel it. And also, he's right, because what I do, especially in decorations and other places, all sort by the unit price, not by the lowest price. So for people who make mistakes like that, I'll search by the lowest.
You still there, Joe?
I'm here. I think Kuze
Am I
got...
cutting out?
Yeah, you cut
just
out for a
briefly.
second there.
Yeah, you're back. I think.
Okay.
Price per each, and sometimes I'll find deals just like that. So yes, just be careful. Did
Cool.
you get the first part? Anyways, it'll be
Kind
on
of.
the,
It'll be on the recording. It's fine.
It'll be on the recording, yeah. All right, and by random allotment, the winner is Indy Solo. So congratulations, Indy Solo. You're the winner of a Tonfon or M83R Droid pet code, courtesy of BioWare, and an OotiniCast provided cartel market pack from the latest shipment. And if you'd like a chance to win the same, please send your tips to OotiniCast@gmail.com by next Wednesday. And that will bring us to the Holo feed. Tio?
Better change that by next Wednesday to Tuesday. Tuesday to Wednesday.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. So in the news, not a lot happening as we would expect in the sort of drought before all the news we'll get for Knights of the Eternal Throne. You have to wait till October for that, I believe we were told. Anyway, so what we do have, firstly, BioWare tweeted out that they have a special on the cartel market. Cartel shipment number 1 is back. And yes it is. That's 4 cartel packs and their associated hypercrates. The packs are the Crime Lords, the Blockade Runners, the Skip Tracers, and the Space Pirates packs. And they sell for 250 cartel coins each, or 5,400 for a hypercrate, which contains 24 packs. So you've got until next Tuesday, the 23rd of August, to pick those up.
I saw somebody was getting those mission items from those packs on Reddit. They posted a screenshot of their chat showing, I forgot what they were, but remember they came in the packs that are mission items to go on a certain mission to get a certain item.
Yes.
But they were supposed to take out. Yeah, I guess they're still in there. So you have a chance of getting them.
Well, they're sort of part of the game now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never had a chance to do them though. So
Maybe you should buy some packs, see what you can get.
I
Anyway.
think you have enough cartel coins to share around. You could buy me some, right?
Sure. Now, something else I noticed and should have mentioned last week was the cartel market and item stash icons in your user interface. They've changed them so that it's now a single unit where you've got the little sort of credit symbol for opening the cartel market, and then next to it an icon for the item stash. And yes, you can move that around in the interface editor if you so choose, though it looks like its position was reset from where I had moved my cartel market icon to. So yes, that looks kind of cool. All part of that new pack opening experience. Anyway, now patch 4.7a was deployed on Tuesday to fix a few things. Now note, this is not game update 4.7.1 that will fix other things and will include the HK55 bonus chapter for all of those people who are eligible for it. That will come out on the 7th of September. So this is 4.7a and is just a patch. Now it includes giving the players who had done the Flashpoint Master, that is finished all the hard mode Flashpoints, if they'd done everything else they would get the Legend tier in the Dark versus Light event and effectively have finished it. So congratulations all of those who should have got it with 4.7, but now they certainly have.
Yeah.
Now they supposedly corrected an issue that was preventing players from earning their class Act 3, that is completing the class story, because that was one of the achievements that you need for DVL. And yeah, apparently it didn't work for some cases. I believe Bounty Hunter may have been problematic. I suspect it's hit and miss depending on individual characters. So anyway, in theory it's fixed, but your mileage may vary and may require another change down the road. Now, progress towards the Commander achievement has been granted for players who completed chapters 10 through 15 prior to game update 4.7. And finally, they supposedly have fixed the depths of Manan Flashpoint on solo or tactical to now properly track for the DVL Flashpoint Expert achievement. Now, you may remember there the issue was if that final boss died from the environment effect, like the
Right.
fire, rather than the killing blow, then it didn't work. Now, supposedly it's fixed, but also I was looking on Reddit, and a few players are still having problems with this. If anything, it seemed a little worse. So, again, maybe try it yourself and just find out.
Right. And if possible, drag him out of the fire for those last few percentage.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, they did provide a bit of a clarification about why some things aren't being fixed quicker in terms of a quick back-end fix. And the reason for that is a back-end maintenance, what they refer to back-end maintenance, where it's just a server-side update, does not require any change to the client. Those things they can pretty much do almost any time, sometimes even without server downtime. But as soon as you require anything to be updated in the client, you actually need proper downtime. As in, they have to take everything offline. Everyone's clients get updated. We talked about that last week, where if things get out of sync, terrible things happen. So they just got to be careful. So they can't just roll a patch out anytime, because remember, downtime will affect players.
Yeah.
I would suspect anytime you have to have back-end maintenance, you need some downtime.
Should I leave that in, Kuze? Should I?
Now, I'm here to break you up. Sorry.
Indeed. Now, it was asked in the forums whether there's any plans to do subscriber rewards. Now, I was sort of thinking they'd be kicking these off pretty quick to keep people subscribed leading up to Kotet. But apparently we won't find out anything about this until early October, when we have the deluge of information, which will come with New York Comic-Con in early October. So, about Kotet, and apparently they'll talk about the subscriber rewards at that point. So, yeah, no actual reason to be subscribed before then, it would appear. Obviously, aside from all the other benefits you get, but...
Right.
Well,
and
go ahead, Jill.
I was just going to say so it sounds like the September one is going to be the HK chapter.
Yes.
So the early October is, we just don't know what's going to be happening in October. And
that's release
beyond.
of information. They won't be giving us anything. That will come later. And if you want to say late December, you'll probably be on the right track as far as the release of Knights of the Eternal Throne goes. And we wouldn't expect any content before then.
Okay.
Right, so that only leaves this subscriber rewards for basically subscribe by the 1st of November and December. So basically 2 rewards before then, since they're not going to release what it is until October. So you're basically 2 items or 2 rewards for subscription, it seems like.
Unless they delay Kotet, but they did say it would be available in the fall, which ends on December 21st.
Right.
All right, next, speaking of Ben Irving, well, let's talk about the interview that Ben Irving, who's the lead producer on SWTOR, had with the Bad Feeling podcast. That's Chuck and Brian. They went into the studio in Austin and had a chat. And now, Ben did actually mention this during the live stream, and he said if you read between the lines in what he was saying, you'd probably get a reasonable idea about what is coming up, particularly as far as group content, etc. goes.
Right.
So after hearing that, I was intrigued, and so have listened to it a couple of times now. So let's go through what they said, and it was a really good interview. I would highly recommend you listen to it. The Brian and Chuck, they were asking some really good questions. So... worth listening to. So, let's start with Ben was saying it is the most successful expansion so far. That's Knights of the Fallen Empire. Far exceeded their expectations, at least at the launch, which was an interesting turn of phrase. So, what happened after that?
I would imagine that just means that, the numbers are not quite in after that. That's my hunch.
Sure.
Yeah, but that's true. I mean, it's kind of true for all launches, regardless of what content. There's always a huge spike in the beginning, and it starts tailoring off after that.
But they made it clear this was the
curious.
most successful of all of the expansions they've had, which isn't that many.
Right, but it's kind of hard to take, because this is the only year since SWTOR's been out that there's been a movie, especially pitching towards story. So it seems... I don't know, if we would have had Rise of the Hutt Cartel, let's say this the prior release, would that have been the most successful expansion? I'm just curious to know if
Indeed.
it was the movie. It's hard to take the movie out of the picture, is what I'm getting at.
Yes, this is one of those classic cases where cause and effect are complicated. And there is just no way, unless you surveyed every player, of teasing them apart. So, anyway, I mean, he went on and said that their goal with SWTOR was to re-engage players who played in that first year of SWTOR's launch, who played it as a spiritual successor of Knights of the Old Republic, and were enjoying it in that way. They played the class story through, and then it ended, and they sort of wandered off. And this was the hope to bring them back with more of that storytelling. Their theory about why it was successful was because it was a return to BioWare storytelling, where they found their home with their deep storytelling and their incredibly immersive cinematics. But yeah, Kuza, as you point out, there are other factors at play here. So who the hell knows?
Yeah.
They admit, and Brian was pushing quite hard on the whole MMO bits thing as the interview went on, so it came up several times. He did say, and he made it clear, Ben, that repeatable multiplayer content was certainly lacking, but they are working on that.
One thing to keep in mind while you're reading these out is at the end of that interview, Chuck and Brian both did say what was coming out of Ben's mouth and the expressions on his face sometimes were two totally different things in his body language. So it's hard to say exactly what these statements mean, because there are things that he has to say. Not saying they're right or wrong; they could be very legitimate. But just that after statement from Chuck and Brian seems to just take that in consideration with everything that he's saying.
I think that was more responding to some questions that they asked, where he had to give the diplomatic answer, as in there is no answer, but I'm guessing that what they read on his face was pretty clear in terms of what they wanted to do or what they were doing.
Yeah, it's tricky. And he does say that, I made it so you can kind of read between the lines. So that tells you that he was having to say things that were,
No, I'm not blaming
diplomatic.
Ben. Yeah, it was definitely good. Yeah, he did a good job.
Now he's saying what they're doing with Kotet is different from what they did in Kotfi, and speaks to the desire for more repeatable and multiplayer-driven content. Now note repeatable and multiplayer-driven. So you kind of have both repeatable content that could potentially be solo. Anyway, more on that. Though we did talk about the fact, and we've commented on this previously, they did take all of the operations and hard mode flashpoints in the game and uplift them to max level. And their metrics were telling them that a lot of people had not completed all of that stuff, and now they were given the chance. But however, they do realise that people who had done the content more or less missed out. And they do consider that a missed opportunity, and so that is also shaping their plans for new content in Kotet. Now, they asked why can't they tell us more, like, are they doing operations? And again, they gave the line, well, the message from Ben was, we can't just tell you the idea until we've got all of the details, because the first thing people are going to want is more details. And so anyway, they just wait until it's fully fleshed out, and then we get the full package all tied up in a little bow and, complete. That is a choice, a marketing choice, and, well, that's the way they're playing it. So
that's the way that it's always been. Even I do remember before Shadow of Revan that we were asking for, and maybe it was even before Coffee. Yeah, it was before Coffee. We were asking for anything. Just tell us anything. We don't need to know the story or whatever else is going on with that. Just tell us something. And it just seems like they were kind of in a rush to get the expansion out, that they didn't quite know a definite of what was going to be what, so they couldn't release anything. So they didn't want to promise anything, and then it get down to the wire, and they made a change, and then it's different. So are they rushed, and they don't have things finalized, so they don't want to promise that any details. But it would be nice, again, as I've said in the past, to have something. I just want systems that they're messing with, not necessarily details.
Which certainly wouldn't be story spoilers, but I suspect what you touched on there, that until it's done, they don't know whether they're actually going to deliver it, is actually probably accurate. I mean, look at the Eternal Championship. They told us it was coming, and then they delayed it twice, and that was egg on their face, so to speak.
Right.
Simply because it wasn't done in time, or wasn't
But-
fun, or whatever.
But that's one of those cases where you say we have a great concept in mind where you can be challenged in this arena event, and we're not ready to release it yet. We don't know when, and then you don't give a date. That's the problem. Is just don't give a date. Say we have this concept. It's going to happen. They know it's going to happen because it has to happen. Well, not necessarily has to, but for the most part, that Eternal Championship was coming out. So they could have easily just said, we're going to have an arena event type where you can battle various opponents, and we're unsure of when it's going to be released because we're still working on it. They can tell us what they're working on, not necessarily when it's going to be finished.
Well, consider the example of No Man's Sky, a game that came out recently and a whole bunch of people apparently played. The developer for that was very vague on a lot of the details of exactly what the game would be, and so players, in their minds, built it into something that was absolutely unachievable. And so when it actually came out, a lot of people were really, really disappointed. So there is that danger that if you sort of paint in broad strokes, just give hints about what's coming, players will then use their expectations to build it into something that's impossible to ever keep anyone
That's also
happy.
the problem of not getting enough information to where players paint that perspective. And I said this one quote on Twitter, which seems to me to be very accurate. You can't satisfy everyone, but you can pacify most people. So by giving enough information to pacify them, to quell the anger and whatever else, you can get by until you're able to give accurate information and satisfy people.
It's a delicate balancing act, and the current strategy of give you nothing, so you have nothing to go on. And as far as we know, they're never doing operations again. So we'll be pleasantly surprised when all those details suddenly are dumped on us in a massive truckload.
Yep.
All right, so lessons learned from Knights of the Fallen Empire. They realise that having a decision you make pay off in a couple of chapters, given our whole instant gratification culture at the moment, it's probably not such a clever idea. And so in the future, decisions that you make will impact sooner. And also, Ben asked players to note the differences in chapter 10 through 16 just over time as they applied lessons that they learned, like as far as mob spawning and just scripting changes in the chapters themselves, just to make it flow better. And I know we complained about some things along those lines, like endless sky troopers, and I actually did get the feeling that things were a bit better going forward, and especially once we got up to chapter 16, it wasn't quite so much pointless fighting. But yeah, of course they could only move so far within the structure that they'd already built. So, but they did try to apply those lessons.
Right, and the last few chapters they've been trying things beyond fighting and cinematics. You know, they've had the traps a couple chapters ago, and they had like the turrets and so on. So they're trying, adding little mechanics just to shake it up a bit, and that even
cool.
just that is nice.
Yes.
One thing else that we did get out of that was that for future storylines, they wanted to make the choices more. The choices that you make happen a little bit quicker, because you have to go between month to month to month. So I might make a choice in chapter 9 that doesn't come to fruition until chapter 14. Well, that's months away, and you might forget about it. So they did say that they wanted to start injecting those a little bit closer together, so people would remember and be able to connect that a lot easier in the storyline.
Should I leave that in since you just repeated what I said?
You probably did, and I was I was reading chat. Sorry.
Nah, it's fine. You sort of re-explained it, so it's fine.
Now sounded better coming from me though.
Oh no, I didn't. Now the focus in Knights of the Fallen Empire was apparently all on storytelling and cinematics. Who knew? Anyway, going forward, as in Knights of the Eternal Throne, they want to put an equal amount of focus on gameplay. So that was probably my principal complaint. So if they're going to do this, fantastic. I don't want to just watch a movie, I want to play a game. So just remembering, going back to their roots as a game, that's a good thing. Now, it was apparently a deliberate decision to make the game easier. I mean, we've been talking about this. A lot of people have written in and told us it's just too easy. And apparently that's exactly what they were shooting for. Because they don't want players who come for the story to ever be blocked from progressing, because that's not fair on them. Yeah, so that's why they did it. You can see the reasoning, but that makes it just effectively boring. Anyway, he does talk about more about that.
Yeah, exactly. Not fair is kind of an odd way to phrase it. It's really about more that they just don't want to frustrate the players away from the game.
Yeah. Some players apparently were saying that it's become less of an MMO, like an RPG, where you don't have to pay attention to stats and gear, and it's more like a console game, and you're just clicking through encounters. Which, obviously, observations we made too, and sort of true. I mean, he didn't really deny that. And he went on to say it's about accessibility. They want to have the most amount of people playing the game. That's the goal of any game developers. And so they try to pick the parts that are really accessible. And he mentioned the beginning part where you're actually onboarding players. They want to make that as smooth and frictionless as possible.
Did he use the phrase onboarding?
Possibly.
It sounds very...
Actually, I think he did.
It sounds very corporate, you know? That's a very corporate phrase.
Oh, yeah. They got to use the buzzwords if you're in management. But he does acknowledge that there is merit in making things challenging. So they want to try to cater for individual needs, as in the people who just want the click through the encounter easy mode, but also the hard challenging stuff. So they really do want to sort of cater for both. And they've got ideas, but obviously they're not trying to, they're not sharing any of that yet. He talked about the Kotfi Chapter 1 experience. Was the whole idea of it was to pick up a start at 60 character and have fun, which means can't be hard, because otherwise you'd just be dying all the time. So, yeah. And they emphasise that Knights of the Fallen Empire was indeed meant to be a solo experience, your personal Star Wars fantasy, where you're the hero of the story, hero at the heart of the story with impactful choices, etc. So yeah, not group friendly in any sense. It was deliberately intended to be a solo experience.
Right.
However, the new content that they're planning, from what he was saying, can be played solo or in a group. And the decision has to be made for any new content they make. Is it solo or group, and what group size? And their plans are sort of revolving around that. How to make something that is potentially both, potentially scaling up. He didn't say scaling up, but you can sort of infer that pretty clearly.
Right.
And he went on to say he loves the idea of players coming to the game, playing it solo initially, and then migrating to group content. And he went on to give the example of the solo version of Flashpoints, where we have quite a few of those now. Because they do make players more comfortable, so that they've sort of played through the Flashpoint, then they can do the group version, and they're sort of familiar with the actual environment, etc.
Yeah, exactly. And for example, the Eternal Championship, was also essentially designed to sort of migrate people from solo to group, because it's a way to teach people how to deal with boss mechanics.
Yep.
And ultimately they need to do that, because if you're not going from the solo leveling experience to a group experience, then it's not an MMO anymore. It's just an RPG.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. Though, he also made the point that a lot of players, even group players, do want to actually solo at some time. And I know, my personal experience, as much as I enjoyed raiding, I also really enjoy just playing alone.
Yeah.
But some players only do solo, and they're quite comfortable being in a world with other players around them, alone together, as we've said before.
Right.
It helps if my mic is on. I was saying Eternal Championship was good, especially for even just a returning player. I hadn't been gone that long, but I should know my rotation and everything else. And just as a refresher, the Eternal Championship was good for that, to kind of get back into the game and relearn everything without being a burden on somebody else.
They are saying that the more things they can do to help players make that jump from solo to group, the better. So I suspect whatever they're going to make for us will actually be bridging that gap between solo and group and making that a smooth transition, easing people into it. Now, they did talk about incentivizing the participation in game styles such as PvP, like the DVL event, where you do have to do some number of war zones, etc. And that is quite deliberate. They are trying to get people who don't usually PvP to PvP, and they're hoping that at least some people will actually enjoy it and actually come back and play. So, yes.
Well, that's just common sense. I mean, you can infer from what they were doing that that's their intent.
And remember... Sorry.
I was going to say same as the companion, or what is it, what are the calls called? The companion... It's not coming up. The alerts, there you go. It was the same thing as the alerts when you had to go do PvP matches, except for there was a difference there in level, of course.
Yeah. So, remember, they don't always know what's going to happen. All they can do is try things. Remember, these are just normal people making decisions based on the data that they have, and they're not always going to get it right. But who's to say some of these things won't work? Now, speaking of that, the cartel market. Brian and Chuck asked about the changes that have been made, grand chance cubes, in, out, bronze items, all that crap. And apparently, that was all because players were asking for it. So this is the cartel market team being responsive. They're trying a lot of things because people are asking for it. So be careful what you wish for, to some extent. And they are listening. So there is no grand strategy here. They really are just responding to feedback. Now, finally, they did talk about the pack opening experience, and Brian expressed the complaint about the notion that they took resources away from other features to develop this. Firstly, Ben made the point that a lot of players actually buy cartel packs, and so improving that experience is actually a good thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
But the main point was this particular feature had been in development for a long time, and just piecing it together whenever they had an opportunity. And so they finally got it done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got that
pretty
impression
much
too.
Verified what my theory from the last show that I was on, that's what was going on in the background. And after Ben had explained, basically there are players who do ops, there are players who do story, and then there's some players that just get on and they open packs and they decorate their stronghold and whatever else. That's their gameplay style. That just doing this update to the cartel market is not just for money purposes. It's also because it is somebody's playstyle. There's somebody out there that's their playstyle. They open up packs, they do stuff. Yes, it helps the company out, but it is what somebody enjoys somewhere. So we tend to forget, I think, sometimes we get into our own niche and we think that, we have to have, why isn't our stuff getting done? But there are other players that do other things, not just story, not just ops, not just PvP, but other things as well. There is, multiple sides to this game. So.
And resources, as in developers at BioWare, they're not all created equal with exactly the same skill sets. So the particular skill sets required to do the pack opening experience, there's UI design and some back-end systems. Got nothing to do with 3D art, nothing to do with designing story, probably not much to do with operation design either. So it's not like you're really taking away from one to support the other. And as you said, this stuff was scrapped together over weekends and whatever else in spare time. So yes, anyway, and it's finally done, and it's here. Anyway, that's pretty much the meat of the interview. If you want to hear Ben yourself, just listen to that episode of the Bad Feeling podcast, and it's always a good listen regardless.
Way to go, guys.
Indeed. Now, Chill, you tweeted a link to this article from MCV about an interview with James Olin, which I'm sure I saw somewhere before, but I didn't realize it was these guys. Anyway, where he was talking about... Well, he insists that the MMO market is more popular than ever. What you say? What about all these games that have seen declining player bases, such as WoW? And James Olin points to the recent success of Activision's Destiny and Ubisoft's The Division to sort of show how the genre has expanded. And so I didn't actually think of those games as MMOs until, as far as Destiny goes, someone I know, a young guy, he was playing Destiny and he was talking about the raids and the other stuff in there, and it was pretty much identical to what you would find in an MMO. It's just the gameplay style was different, as it's more of a shooter.
Yeah,
But
my son.
so many aspects of it was
He
just
would
like
complain
MMO.
sometimes because we'd yell for him to come eat dinner or do a chore or something like that. And he was like, "Oh, I'm in my raid. I gotta finish." So something that we would say when we're getting called by the significant other, whoever else, trying to get drawn away from the computer. It's a full MMO experience.
Indeed, but they
Every
don't
other
call
time.
themselves MMOs. So that's James Olin's point.
Right.
It is successful, but it's changed. It's evolving. And of course, SWTOR is the old style of game, whereas now it's becoming this more Destiny style, whatever. And as I think I talked about in the previous show, that's my prediction for what comes next. That is one of the games that they're working on, is some kind of immersive MMO style game that is
So
of this style. Yeah.
what would you say are the important differences? Because I haven't played Destiny or The Division. So,
Me either.
what's the style? Do we know?
It's
Or
more
can they?
shooter. It's more.
It is, first-person shooter. There's
Yeah.
Destiny is
Okay.
definitely.
It's not tab targeting. It's not clicking ability bars. That kind of thing.
Okay, so the MMO parts would be where you have do you still have a character that is developing and getting stronger and getting new
Yes.
abilities or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
weapon
at least new
upgrades,
gear?
You still have
weapon
inventories.
upgrades, levels.
Okay.
Crafting.
There might be something
In some
similar to
form.
crafting, right?
Yeah.
In some form or another.
Okay. Yeah, and I could see that then.
Now, you did mention SWTOR briefly. He said, obviously, SWTOR is very much a classic PC MMO game, as in the old style, but they've been very successful because they're Star Wars. We are BioWare, and we are focused on differentiating ourselves with story, which actually may, in fact, be true. So, oh, you did also mention the MMO-style games on smartphones, such as Galaxy of Heroes, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes from EA, with its own guilds and other bits and pieces. Again, all these aspects of MMOs that is just sort of trickling out into all through gaming.
Right. Yeah, so I guess that makes sense. I mean, Galaxy of Heroes, I don't know if I would consider that an MMO, but it definitely has, social aspects. It's definitely massively multiplayer. I just don't think it's MMORPG. So,
Indeed. But
yeah,
this is where we get categorization errors and
yeah.
are we really complaining too much about
Exactly.
actually what we name it?
And things do change over time. I mean, before there were MMOs, there were online RPGs, just 8 players on a LAN or through modems or whatever.
And MUDs, of course, which were just text-based. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, things do change, and yeah, if that's how it's going, then maybe they'll need a new term. Maybe not, though. I mean, if it's still an RPG that I'm looking, over someone's shoulder and still like killing things and getting loot and joining guilds, and I don't see why that's not an MMO. So. All right, but anyway, I thought that was interesting, and he makes some good points, and certainly it's true that even if this exact style, the World of Warcraft, Star Wars: The Old Republic style of game, may be kind of on the way out, but as long as there's something sort of similar out there, the MMO RPG player can be happy.
Remember,
So,
what we want are immersive games, immersive worlds that we can visit and live in, that are able to fulfill our Star Wars fantasy or whatever other fantasy that we have.
right.
That's what we want, in whatever form it takes.
But since the diversity of gameplay is so vast now compared to what it used to be, because a lot more people are playing games now, to grab multiple people's attentions in a game, you can't, to me, focusing on one area is a very bad idea.
Sure.
You're going to have to implement multiple things if you want to be successful.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that takes more resources, which takes more money, and then how do you balance that out with the money that you're getting back in? So it is a balancing game, but an MMO like Warcraft and SWTOR and other games along the same lines, they really have to grab multiple people's attentions instead of just one. First-person shooter games, yes, you have to grab multiple attentions, but it's more focused people like running around first-person shooting, getting
Sure.
more weapons. And so it seems more pigeonholed and focused in a first-person shooter like Destiny and stuff like that. Whereas traditional MMOs have to grab more people's attention nowadays, it seems like, because everybody's looking for the new best thing and shinies and everything else. So it's about holding their attention, and you can't just do that with one element.
Well, especially now,
Mm-hmm.
just given the way that
Yeah.
people are changing. I guess we'll find out just what EA has in mind with those new games that they're making, because, as I say, I'm pretty sure they're going to try and tick as many of those boxes as they possibly can. It'll be PC and console, for example, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
We will see. All right, let's touch on community briefly. Thanks to our latest Utini patron, Jedi Zen. Thank you very much, mate. And actually, that's it. So,
Thank you.
and that's the news.
Okay. Well, that'll bring us to the Academy, and this week Sotorista explains how to set up Operation Nights, PvP Nights, and Role-Playing Nights, and ways to let your guildmates know about these events. Thank you, Sotorista, and that will bring us to the Force Feedback, where we read out your tweets and emails. And starting off with Greg, who writes, if anyone out there is curious, SWTOR looks amazing in ultra-wide 21:9 ratio. I've been playing it in 3440 by 1440. Nice.
Wow. So jealous, Greg. So jealous.
Yeah, I would have to massively change my setup in order to do that. And spend quite a bit of money probably too.
Indeed.
But it's nice if you can do it. All right. Javadoggy writes, did anyone else catch the Easter egg of episode 3 at the start of last chapter? If you didn't, I guess you'll have to do it again and look hard. It is there.
I completely missed this.
Start of the last chapter. Whew. So chapter 16 is what he's talking about, the Battle of Odessen.
Based on the timing, sure.
I will have to check it again because it's not popping into mind. I think if I had noticed it, I would have mentioned it on the stream, and it would have then therefore stuck
Right.
in my head.
Right.
So I don't think I noticed it at the time, and nothing's coming to me right now. But I will look for that because I'm sure I'll be doing it again. Have to do it for the DVL if nothing else. All right. Adam writes, one upside of the early patch launch was that it was overnight for us Europeans, which was nice for a change.
Indeed. Usually it's during the day.
Yep. Yeah, there's always a segment of the world that's going to get hosed by that sort of thing. So, right. J Mac writes, being a founder in SWTOR, I need to join a guild. Hey, UtiniCast, love the podcast. Now I would like to become an Utini Knight.
And I saw you pointed him at the Harbinger and /cjoin Utini.
That's right. Yep.
Very nice.
We are taking refugees.
Yep.
More the
and-
merrier.
Yeah, and thank goodness for the 1,000 guild size, because we still
Yes.
you have quite a few members. I checked the
Indeed.
other day. It's not like we're at 550. We're cranking right up there. So
I still have a bunch of characters in Utini Castaway, the alt guild that we had to make because we
Right.
met the limit.
yep.
Now, if you want to find
Other
out more
real
about our
castaways.
guilds, go to utinicast.com/guild. That will redirect to our engine site that Decion et al. Maintain.
hmm
So find out more.
Yes, absolutely. Because nowadays we are asking folks to join the engine site. Okay. JJ writes, how do you always seem to know the patch file size? Regardless, what is the 4.7a patch size estimation? I'm in a hotel and have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it was about 73 megabytes, and the only reason I know how big it is because I look at the launcher and see how big the downloads are. There's often multiple, but there's usually the big chunky one up front. So
Fair enough.
no other magic from that, aside from that.
Okay. Galactic Elite wrote, at least 6 people who have been criticizing the echo chamber on the SWTOR subreddit last week have been mistaken for me and censored.
Yeah, poor old Galactic Elite, other people have been saying similar things, and apparently they have been accused of being him, so yeah. Now,
Weird.
you can read his
Okay.
blog. I believe I linked to it last week. He says some very, very controversial things. But also, I can't help thinking there's a ring of truth there.
Gotta hear all sides.
Indeed.
Okay. And Kuze, did you want to read yours, or do you want me to read yours?
Well, I kind of went over it in the beginning. I finally tried explosive conflict. That's what EC used to be, Eternal Championship, and again, I liked it.
Oh.
I wish there was a little bit more interrupt things
just
going on in there.
Okay.
One caveat to that is a solo mode and maybe heroic mode of the Eternal Championship would be nice.
Yeah,
That would be
Other
cool.
than that, that's it.
Did you get all the way through it yet?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's done a
All
couple
right.
times, and then after you learn the fights, it's relatively easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
All right. Sir Salisbury writes, a nice way to build a solo or group deal is to allow the player to build a group out of all the acquired companions with set roles. They would work just like they did in Chapter 16, but with more specific AI based on their assigned roles. It would allow you to keep higher difficulty and also allow the solo player to learn the mechanics of the run. That way people can learn the fights in a less stressful, at their own pace environment.
What a fantastic idea. So what he's proposing is like you have operations where you can do them solo, but with your army of companions filling out the other spots in the raid. Or
kinda
the
cool.
operations group. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be sort of like having a Jesus droid, but the AI would have to be smarter. I don't know how practical it is, but as a way
Yeah.
of... Well, even if you had like only 6 players, imagine filling out the group of companions. I know you can't do that in operations now, but imagine if you could and they were actually smart enough to be useful.
That would be cool.
Very
Very, very
cool.
It's a
cool.
good idea, but you know how we used to do this back in the day? We'd watch a video of somebody else doing it and see it from their perspective to learn how to do the operation. Before you got
Yeah,
into
but if
it.
you don't have enough
There's nothing
players-
like doing it yourself, right?
True.
But still.
True.
Yeah,
That'd be-
as
that'd
far
be
as the
pretty
companions
cool.
go, their AI is not too bad. The only problem with the AI currently is, of course, just moving out of stupid. So if they were able to move on their own out of the stupid, it wouldn't be so bad. They would be tenfold better.
Or if the
Right.
stupid just had a reduced impact on them.
Which I think is what they do in a lot of the
Yes.
solo story content. They just cheat that out so that, the AoE kills you, but your companion's
It would
barely
kill the-
touched.
Right, kill the droid.
Yeah. And it would be a lot of fun, and it would be interesting to see like some of the mechanics being used that way. Like, all the companions have to run to a certain area to mitigate the damage or whatever. That would be really interesting to see.
Yeah, there are some mechanics still left, but they did take out a lot in the story modes compared to what used to be there, especially with like the puzzle bosses and things. The
Mhm.
stuff that people used to have to do in story mode, they don't have to do anymore. So
Right.
this probably would be a lot easier than it was in the past.
Indeed.
Okay, Cole writes, as the game has become more streamlined and easier since launch, one area that hasn't been touched is the number of abilities at our disposal. Do you think an ability prune is coming up in the future? For example, I have more than 35 binds on my assassin.
If you do that, you take away complexity from gameplay, which, well, I'm surprised they haven't already, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's certainly possible. However, and I definitely know that we already know that because of the way that they're adding new abilities nowadays, which tend to replace other abilities rather than being completely new ones,
Yes.
that they also feel much the same way, that they're at saturation. But yeah, I don't see them getting rid of a lot because, frankly, they usually do a pretty good job of making it so that each ability has special
Special
little
role, right.
details that makes it useful in certain situations.
And that's
So-
that kind of what differentiates the beginning players and the experienced players is the ability to use or effectively use all of your abilities. So new players can get by with only using maybe 10 of those abilities, where the experienced player who knows their class can use all 35 of those abilities. So when you're doing PvP or something else, so by taking it away, you're hurting the people on the experienced end, and you're just reducing the community even more. And I don't think that's necessarily a good idea.
Right.
Ability bloat does suck at times, depending on what it is, but you don't want to take away the options.
Exactly. If they did, they would really have to overhaul how all the abilities work. Because usually games that only use a few abilities per character, the abilities are more complex. They interact in special ways.
Mhm.
There's ways to make a few abilities very, very interesting. But that wasn't their style, and still isn't their style. Their style is to have interesting abilities that are interesting on their own, not that they interact. And if you only had a few of those, then it would get dull very quickly.
Yes.
In fact, on Chill Satan, I do think AoE is pretty boring because he's all he has is just the spin in one place spam.
Yeah.
If all the specs were like that, where they only had one ability for AoE, then that would be far different than what we have now. So, all right, Benjamin writes, I just finished listening to the latest show, and it was great as always. Thank you, Benjamin. It is quite a thing for you to dig into EA's financials on a regular basis and use it to examine the game we all love. We may not be able to play it as much as we want, or may not have as much new stuff as you'd like, but it's still a fantastic game and a gateway to a fantastic universe. I'm not a role player, but I find myself justifying the choices I make in the Dark versus Light Side event. And I know what you mean. Even though I am doing it to juice the light side. I think to myself, I'm a pure-blood Sith, but I can see where this road ultimately leads. I must stop this before we Sith are no more. Trying to understand my tune is something I could never get into with other MMOs. I appreciate that too.
Yes, agreed.
Like Tio, I too question whether it is worth the $15 a month I pay to play, but then I realize that it costs more to watch a movie and get popcorn. And I get much more back from the experience in terms of time and entertainment. It really is a good deal, even if I only play 4 to 8 hours a month. Thanks again for the great experience, Johnny, sorry, that was Benjamin. Thank you, Benjamin.
Yeah, I realised that when I spent more than $15 just on coffee this week, that what am I thinking? Yes, of course it's worth it.
I made this argument in the past, but honestly, it's kind of irresponsible. If you add that up, that's $150 to $170 something a year. That's a payment to your your DirecTV or an insurance payment or something along the lines. If I just went around all the time just saying, oh, well, this only costs $15 and this only costs $15 and this only costs $15, I'd be broke. So, I mean, it's easy to say on one hand that it's only this much, I spend more on this, but on the other hand, you do have to look at the bigger picture and say, well, if I spend $15 here, here, and here, and here, that does actually add up. And actually, I'm probably going to resubscribe again. I'm just waiting for them to give me one of those nifty little things on the launcher. And then I'll
if you launch now, you get a little bonus, a little boost.
Have you seen the thing on the launcher? Be subscribed by sometime mid-August and August 18th, yeah, and you get, was it 500 cut-off points?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that on the launcher, but I did get an email for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, something else. Apparently, all players are being sent a email that is talking about the player's HK55 chapter, even if they're not eligible for it.
Ooh, okay.
Which seems like a really odd thing to do.
Yeah, that's an awkward thing to do.
Yeah.
Mm.
So anyway.
That might bite them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yes, folks, you're either eligible or you're not, and unfortunately, that email is not going to be a gauge of whether you are or not. Oh boy. Okay. Let's see. Next one, Johnny, aka Born to Eat Bacon, writes, FYI, reply regarding not getting credit for completing the Bounty Hunter class story. And he has forwarded a message from support@swotor.com. And subject is your ticket, and then he gives a ticket number. Greetings. By now you're aware that you've been battling a bug that's prevented a completion of some class storylines being properly counted towards legendary player status. The nature of the bug, it is caused by missing background triggers in-game, means that customer service has not been able to help with these cases. In recent game updates, we've resolved the problem across the majority of class storylines. However, some of the missing triggers proved trickier to pin down, and we needed a bit more time to work them out. We are still aiming for a full fix in an upcoming patch. We are truly sorry for the continued wait. Galactic support is our specialty. And it's signed Star Wars, The Old Republic Customer Support Team. Interesting. Well, thank you, Johnny, for forwarding that. It's always interesting to see something official from the game, even something as simple as this.
Yeah.
Well, what do you, since you're more technically oriented, Tio, what can you tell us about this?
That it's a complicated fix that they aren't going to spend the time to actually investigate. So, or if they are, this is a background low priority issue. It's unclear when they'll ever fix it. That's a bit concerning. But at least they're actually telling players, yeah, it's complicated and we're trying, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to actually find the fix.
Right. Now, what exactly would would a missing background trigger be?
Oh, it's just the way the scripting works with the game engine. As in, some things happen in response to something else, as in a player action or something like that. And
Okay.
if that trigger is missing, then it's like with a line of dominoes where you push over one, they all fall over. If you take out a couple in the middle, it only goes so far and then it stops. And
Okay.
there's no way to actually finish it off. As a rough analogy.
That's fine. Yeah, I think it still helps a little bit. Okay, good. And next one. Hawk Route in. Check this out. Old Republic era to Netflix. Go ahead and give us a little bit on this, Tio.
So this is on change.org. It's effectively a petition of people wanting Netflix to create one of those fantastic standalone series that they do set in the Old Republic's universe. Because there's just so many stories they could tell. They chose Netflix because they've created, all kinds of fantastic series, such as House of Cards and various others. Stranger Things, I believe, was a Netflix special.
Yes.
And that was awesome. So anyway, I will link to it, and if you reckon if you want to try to help convince them, go ahead and sign it. I believe they're up to over 1,000. Let me just check what they're currently at. They currently have 3,448 supporters, and they are on their way to the current next milestone is 5,000. So anyway, 3,500 so far. I think.
Cool. So this is, but this is not from Disney. This is towards Disney. This is people saying, "Hey, let's talk to Disney and let them know that there's a market for this, that there's interest in this."
Indeed. So this is entirely grassroots effort. There's nothing official here, but if they get enough people saying sure, then maybe, just maybe, they'll actually go ahead. Can't hurt, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and was there anything from the chat room that we should talk about before we
Just ask if there's any
head
questions.
out?
Probably not. Anything else you want to bring up? Because that's a pretty good duration for the show, actually.
No, that's fine. Fine for me.
Okay.
All right, then, that's a show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Harbinger server, or in our Guild on the Empire side, do a /c join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then let us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to OotiniCast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter using @OotiniCast. You can find contact details for all of us on our website, OotiniCast.com, which includes how to subscribe to us using iTunes, Stitcher, and the rest. We record the show live every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Go to OotiniCast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is Doomsday by Jean-Paul Zogby. Thank you to the chat room, and thank you to Kuze.
Thanks, everybody. It's been fun.
And we'll see you next week.
All right, guys, keep recording. You know how it works. Everyone, thank you for watching. I will hopefully sort out my webcam issues, or get a new webcam, or hopefully Logitech will issue a patch. Farsi was saying he's got the same webcam as me, and it's also screwed up with the anniversary update. So
Oh boy. Now I'm afraid to do it on mine since I also have Logitech.
Happy anniversary.
Indeed. Surely it won't be much longer before they actually fix it. So anyway, thank you again for watching, everyone. We will be back next week, and our guest next week is Bill. Yes, Bill.
What?
Bill,
Hey.
the Moneybags Bill.
Nice. That'll be good.
So yes,
Awesome.
that will be awesome. All right, so thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week. May the Force serve you well.